In this video we'll be looking at principles of training. Principles of training are key areas that need to be implemented into a training program to ensure that it is successful. The main principle of training that you need to know and apply is the FIT principle. F stands for frequency, so how long an athlete needs to train. I for intensity, how hard the athlete needs to work. T for time, how long the training session will last. And T for type, the type of method of training the athlete will use to make it relevant to them. For example, to develop aerobic endurance, an athlete would need to train for at least 3 times a week, make sure they maintain 60 to 85% of their maximum heart rate, train for at least 30 minutes each session, and either use continuous, interval or fartlek training. There are also additional principles of training that need to be considered. These are specificity, making training specific to an individual sport, activity or fitness goals. For example, a swimmer is likely to do a majority of their training in the pool so that their muscles are developed in a specific way that they use them in the competitions. Progressive overload, making training demanding enough over time so the body is forced to adapt gradually. This reduces the risk of injury. For example, someone training for muscular strength would increase their 1 rep max week upon week. If they were doing the chest press, for weeks 1 and 2 they may lift 70% of their 1 rep max for 10 reps. Weeks 3 to 4 they may lift 80% of their 1 rep max for 8 reps. And weeks 5 to 6 they might lift 90% of their 1 rep max for 6 reps. Individual differences or needs. Designing training program to meet individual training needs or goals, as well as take into account individual differences. There are a number of different individual needs and differences that need to be considered. An athlete with a known heart condition, for example, would need to check with their doctor before planning training activities. Or if an athlete lives in a rural area and does not have access to a gym, then their activities would be limited. The next 3 principles of training are linked. Adaptation is the ability of the body to cope with increased training loads. This principle occurs during rest and recovery periods. Rest and recovery periods are having rest days in a training program so the body has time to adapt. Rest periods are also included within training sessions so that muscles can replenish their energy stores. Without adaptation and rest and recovery, reversibility might occur. Reversibility is losing all fitness gains due to training lacking intensity, an athlete becoming ill, or an athlete losing interest in not completing the training program. Variation. Variation is using different methods of training to maintain enjoyment and to avoid boredom or overuse injuries. For example, an individual training for aerobic endurance would use maybe continuous training, interval training or fartlek training to make sure they stay interested in their training program. Alternatively, someone that just wants to do continuous training might use running sessions, cycling sessions, and swimming sessions. That brings us to the end of Learning A revision videos. Make sure that you revisit them when you're revising for the external assessment. The next series of videos will be looking at Learning Aim B, which is the different methods of training.